And then he said, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills.
I can't catch a break, guys.
Yeah.
Get them the fuck away from me. I can't be around those guys.
People think, oh, well, cleaning your room, that's just a cliche. It's like, yeah, really, eh? Just go ahead and try it.
If people had any idea how powerful sleep is for healing from anything, and the fact that it's free.
My mind is absolutely bulletproof, solid as a rock.
Podcast. Hello and welcome to the first podcast of 2023 and the Fight and Fit Show. Today we've got myself, Stephen, Chris, and Brandon. How are you guys doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
bro.
How's everybody feeling about 2023? Are we optimistic, pessimistic?
I see the meme and it was like everybody's quiet as fuck now. Nobody's claiming this is going to be your year. Everybody's real nervous.
That's actually so true because they're like nobody had any idea. Like even me and Jim were talking last night or the night before about like reminiscing on the year that just passed or anything. Like at this stage last year, we had no idea that year, like we didn't even have our retreat or ending planned at that point. And like that obviously kind of completely changed the entire trajectory of the year and stuff. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, all you can do is make plans, hope for the best. Make plans, hope for the best. But that's kind of the topic of today's podcast, lads. We are going to be chatting about New Year's resolutions in general. The pros, the cons. Is it a good idea to set new goals? Will you actually change? I think you put up an interesting video on your story recently, Brandon, basically saying it's a waste of time. It's not going to be a new you. It's the same old you, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to maybe elaborate on that point?
I'll Jocko Willing. Can't love a bit of Jocko. His point was essentially it's not new year, new you. It's new year, old you. And that's the thing about it is you are the same old person that you always were. And all that's changed is that a couple of seconds have ticked past forward in the clock. Now, obviously, there's an awful lot to be said for, certain kind of mindsets and, novelty and all this kind of stuff. And I generally do believe, like, I would love to think that, I'm just of the new year, old you kind of stuff. But I do feel myself and around everybody else, everybody does kind of carry with it this new year energy. And that in itself is very, very useful. But at the end of the day, those habits that you have are still in place. And the new year, new you kind of energy can be enough to kind of shift momentum for an awful lot of people, which is fantastic. But it's not going to be the thing that pulls you out of the hole and drags you, in the direction you want to go. Nothing's going to do that except for really meaning it this time, really trying to focus on setting good habits, putting all the key structures in place, making sure you're eliminating all the bullshit situations and people that you're going to be putting yourself in. Because the new year definitely does psychologically give you this kind of fresh slate effect. But once that energy runs out, and you, like some people might have already hit that place already, like new year, new me. I know we kind of had a little bit of an our house yesterday. It was new year, here we go. It's Sunday. It's Sunday. Sure, it's Sunday. Sure, we'll start the third. You know what I mean? And so, look, that new year energy for me is still kind of carrying forward today. Like I still kind of feel that fresh start, and whatever. But the big thing about it is like, what are you going to do with that new energy? And are you going to set yourself up these big drastic goals? Do you think you're going to be automatically a new person? Those good intentions that you have are literally only good intentions. The big difference is what are you going to do to discipline yourself? What kind of action are you actually going to take? As unsexy as it is, it's hard work and dedication year in, year out. I hope to God that the new year, new you has spurred you on to take action and maybe even have, some momentum behind you because of some action that you did take. Maybe you told some people, now you maybe got some leverage in place. But that's not going to be all that you need. Hopefully, it's a fantastic start.
Yeah. Chris, anything to add to that?
I think what the New Year's resolution thing does is, first off, like just having that collectively as like a society is pretty cool because it does give everyone permission to start clean. And I think it releases a little bit of baggage that you might have or a little bit of inertia from, let's say, old patterns of behavior. And it gives you permission to let them go and to be like, no, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to be better and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's good. It can be very disheartening if you do settle with New Year's resolutions and then let yourself down, especially if you've done that like year after year after year. If you've like set a new goal and then failed and then, no, this year's going to be different, and then you fail and then you quit and then like, it will make you sort of apprehensive to set goals and be ambitious again. But I think the idea of it, like letting you start again and being like, all right, this year's going to be much better, is a nice idea, and it's good to help the change mentally. But like Brian was saying, like Joe, it can't be all mental, but it does start. I think it does start with the mental side. But if it doesn't, if you don't follow through, you don't take any action, you don't start building good habits, well then it's going to be for nothing.
Exactly. One big thing that I would say just on that is that here's the big thing that changed my life like many years ago. I'm only 27, but still, it was about 8 years ago, was the power of habit. And so the patterns that are in your brain are not just now going to go away because you've decided new year, new me. That's the big thing about it, is that there is literal physical and psychological pathways in your brain that you need to now work against. And if initially the new year, new you gives you the energy to start that process, fair enough. But those patterns are there and they're not going to go away overnight, and they're not going to go away by themselves. So getting to work on understanding those habits, maybe the thing that you change for 2023 is that you pick up a new book, and that gives you the philosophies and the ideas and the tools that you need to actually start fixing things. But again, understand that this is a big overhaul of brain chemistry that more than anything else, and psychology more than anything else. So it's like that's the battle that you're going to have to be up against. And again, a day on the calendar just isn't going to fix that. But that initial energy, I just feel like should be utilized, and it is so useful. I think what you said, Chris, is just spot on, that there's so many other people doing it now that there's a lot of energy and momentum behind it, like culturally and socially. So that's for sure a very helpful element and helpful side of this time of year.
Yeah, just something I want to point I want to build on earlier. You were saying like a new year, same you. With the habits and all that jazz, like you actually have like a proper like structure of like neural pathways in your brain that like don't just go away by going like, oh, I'm not going to be like this anymore. So like you'll have the weight of that, and it does take a bit of a push to help override those new patterns, because they're already streamlined, they're already like in your brain, they're already in your body, and to create new ones it takes effort and consistency. So
or here's the big one. What do we say? We said this about hunger not too long ago on the podcast, was urge surfing. That's what an awful lot of people are going to have to do now with those pathways, is that they're going to feel those pathways kick in, and then you have to sit there and surf that urge and just kind of let it kind of dwell or drift away and kind of run its course, because it will feel like this big urge, this big impulse to do whatever it is or not do whatever it is. And
or it might even be unconscious as well.
But Chris is saying that these things are probably unconscious. I would say I'd say they're more than likely unconscious. Most of these behaviors are unconscious, and that's kind of
especially if it's
that's the rut I feel most people are stuck in. They're not yet at the awareness stage where they're aware, or they don't have that knowing of the things that are holding them back. And kind of my point would be with the New Year's resolutions, I do believe it. I think it will be whatever you decide it's going to be. And if I walk in here and I'm saying like, this is the start of a new year, this is a brand, this is going to be new me, new routine, new habits, new goals, going to smash them. This year's going to be twice as productive as last year. Going to, change 1,000 lives instead of a couple hundred lives, whatever it might be. If I make that decision, as long as I act in congruency with them goals, it's manifested today. If I make a decision to be that person today, as long as I maintain the actions and behaviors from today that are in alignment with that vision of the person I want to be or the things I want to achieve, I have literally changed today. So I would encourage people to really get invested in that. But also, you have to look back, as the guys are saying, you have to look back over the past year, and you have to take the lessons. That's why the first part of change, I feel, is reflecting. You have to look back over the past year. What worked well for me? What didn't work well for me? The big thing for me is it's the sleep and the wake schedule. The sleep and the wake. That's the key thing for me that just seems to hold me back. When I stay up too late, I don't get up early, I'm not as productive as I want to be. It means if I stay up late, we can run in a pattern with Molly, and it was beautiful. And I don't. But it was, Molly was waking up at 8:30 in the morning. I was like, it was just so nice for the three of us just to kind of wake up together, right? I always kind of thought I had to be, be this early boarding up at 5 or 6 a.m. And it was just lovely to do that for a couple of months. But even there today, my first morning up at 6 a.m., got my journal done, got my meditation done, got my workout done, got a little bit of work done. I can feel it in my body just how buzzing I am there. I just feel like I'm on the right path. I'm moving in the right direction. So I would I want to keep people enthused about, like, if you decide to change today, you can change today. You just have to act incongruent, but you have to be proactive, and you have to look back and think, what were the things I've done over the past year that have held me back, and how can I create like physical, mental, and emotional binds that make it harder for me to fall back into them patterns? What do you think about that?
Here's something
what physical, mental, and emotional binds would hold
like, so
you
for
back?
example,
Not you
like
personally,
for example,
but
yeah. I'm saying, like, for me, I'm talking like a physical bind would be something like, every time there's cookies in the house, I eat a whole pack of cookies. So a physical bind would be creating a situation where there's no cookies in the house. That's a physical bind. Okay, like an emotional bind would be, I made a commitment to my best friend that I'm going to see them at the gym every day at 7 a.m. If I don't show up, I'm going to let them down. That would be, say, an emotional bind. These are the kind of things I'm talking about. I find these things are very, very powerful. So like me and Jen made a commitment to each other that this is the kind of routine that we're going to implement. Blah blah blah. So it's like, now we're kind of creating, and even for me, like my alarm was in the office, so it was in the other room, and I can hear it from my bedroom because I'm not a super deep sleeper. So I just know, like, a physical bind is my alarm is away from the bed. So there's no urge to hit snooze. I have to get up out of bed. I have to turn it off because I'm like, I don't want that alarm to wake Molly up. So I have to get up and get out of the bed into the other, literally into my office to kind of turn it off. So these are the kind of things that I find work very well for me, just to get you over that point where the pattern would be hit snooze, roll over, etc. Whereas, like, no, this physical bind forced me to get up and out of bed. I was even looking at considering buying them rug alarm clocks. You have to literally go up out of bed and stand in them for like 5 seconds or something before the alarm will actually turn off.
that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, but these are things that I'm talking about. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And what do you think? Have you seen people utilize them? Have you guys utilized them yourselves?
Yeah, go on.
I said this in the podcast before. I do stuff like this. There's a couple of things I plan on spilling the beans now here in the podcast for things I want to do this year, and I do that all the time. That is my number one go-to for making commitments. Is that I just make a very large social bind to people who I feel like, all my clients that I feel very accountable to. So once I make a commitment to those, I feel like I'm stuck and I've got no other way, and everything just kind of happens as a product of that. So that's my number one strategy. First thing I want to do something, and I know it's kind of scary, I just start telling everybody.
Yeah.
And again, like my sleep-wake routine is a physical bind. Like, I have a job. I literally can't be up late, so I'm stuck like that, and that's the way I like it.
Yeah.
Leverage. Yeah, I think social leverage is a really, really good one. Like, if you publicly commit to doing something and everyone's watching you, it's like you can't fucking fail. Like, you can't quit. You can't do anything like that. And especially if if you have some sort of like reputation that you want to live up to, it's very, very powerful to get you to make some changes.
So sorry, just interject on that as well. I would just want to say about these kind of social binds, because kind of what kind of plays in my mind then is these situations where I put myself before I've made it, say, like a social commitment. I've created that leverage to achieve a certain outcome, and then what happens is then you don't do the habits, and then you procrastinate at the end. Like, say, for example, doing maybe train for half marathon or something like that, or do these kind of 100K May challenges or whatever it might be, and then you end up doing 40% of the work in the last week or something like that. You know what I mean? So I would say, when you are creating these things, to try and establish the leverage or the social bonds to the habits and the routines, not necessarily the outcome. Because if you're a procrastinator like I am, and like a lot of people are, you will just keep pushing it off, and then end up with a lot of work to the end. And then you probably will, if you're like me, or if you're like, you don't want to let people down, or you're a little bit stubborn, you want to get the job done, you'll just suffer through it and get it done in the last minute, and you'll have missed that opportunity to actually establish them new pathways, establish the habits, the routines, etc.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Well, one thing I was just going to press on earlier on was that this whole kind of new identity thing. Sometimes I feel like that there's people who won't commit to. I don't know me. I could be one of these people, depending on how far you stretch me. Which is like, I won't make commitment to be that kind of person. I won't take the action if I feel like there's this underlying feeling of doubt. I'm not capable of doing like that thing. Is like, so whatever the behavior or whatever the outcome that you're trying to achieve, one thing that I found to be really helpful is, again, what you said. It's like, it's not about the outcome. This is about the habit. So what you have to do is you have to break it down small enough. It's like, right, I'm not the kind of, like, for talk's sake, I want to be a fitness model. I want to look the best kind of person I can be. Yeah, well, good luck with that. Maybe that's a little bit far out of your kind of scope right now. What's not outside your scope? but I know I can train 4 or 5 times a week, and I know I can drink a protein shake, twice a day, and I know I can eat this meal or X thing, and I know I can hit my steps. It's like that is essentially the journey, but you don't have to overwhelm yourself to become or to come out with a statement that's overwhelming. Because I know there is an awful lot of people who don't want to set goals. Like, again, just as soon as you start thinking, like, because I know you're a big action taker, but I know there's some people I know, again, who will be listening to this podcast and they're, very nervous when it comes to setting new goals because they maybe don't have that kind of courage. And obviously I would encourage them to have that, but easier said than done, and so it's like, instead of like just only reaching out into these new like massive identities, it's like reach into like an action taker. It's like reach into somebody who does this instead of somebody who is this. And it's like, I am somebody who commits to X, Y, or Z. And again, all these tools like these binds are brilliant ways of kind of tying yourself into the behaviors that you need to become.
Just to give you that little bit of a kickstart to actually be able to do it yourself, just to kind of until you've done it a few times, until you've built some momentum, because it can be very, very hard to start these new things on your own. So just using physical, social, emotional binds to push you to the next level. But the goal is always to establish your own routine and do it on yourself. Because I feel like over the years, one of the reasons I still struggle with some of like establishing maybe new routines sometimes is because I rely so much on leverage. So again, everything has its pros and cons. And then without massive leverage, it's hard for me to take action then. Or you fall this, you get these stories, I do my best work under pressure, blah, blah. It's like, do you really? Or are you just unorganized and a bit of a procrastinator, etc. So it's important to kind of to look at all these things. And anything else to add on New Year's resolution, setting goals? Go on.
Yeah, so you mentioned a point earlier that sounded pretty cool. You're all about reflection. Like, before you start setting goals, it's important to reflect over the previous year. Well, how would you go about reflecting?
Well, what I would do is I would basically just write down maybe my wins and struggles for the year. I think it's with all the stuff, it's always important to kind of start with gratitude, and to be in that frame of mind, a self-compassionate, grateful frame of mind when you're doing this stuff. But then just looking, it's like, logically, what were the things that held me back this year? Like, what did I not do that I could have done better? Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So just sitting down, it's with a pen and paper, it's just journaling and thinking, what do I need to do better? That whole thing, I think Jordan Peterson says that it's like, if you thought of something you could do, or I can't remember exactly what he says, but I'm sure you can think of one thing. Like, we all know this whole thing, our intuition, this voice in our head, for me, just always screams at me when I fall off the path, when I'm not on the journey to self-actualizing, not on the journey to become the best version of myself. It screams at me. And I feel like a lot of people confuse that voice for bad mental health when that's your best friend. That's your best friend telling you, listen, I love you. I don't want you to be less than you're capable of being. Get back in the pack, do these things. But we frame it as a negative, when actually, if you listen to that voice and you take what it says into consideration, because otherwise, like, who are you? Like, there's probably a lot of things you could be doing better. There's a lot of things I could be doing better. There's a lot of things Elon Musk could be doing better. Like, no matter kind of what your level of success, if you're kind of setting goals in terms of, say, like, as we've done at the retreat, say health, wealth, career, contribution, or community, usually it's very difficult to find a balance. And that's kind of what I hope to do this year for me personally, is like, grow to the point where I can manage things a little bit better. As I said, I've achieved a lot of goals I set last year. My health is still one of the ones that's let me down, say, since 2020. But I've achieved a lot of my business goals, all my personal goals, all my relationship goals. So that's the one that I'm really hoping to unlock. And this is what personal growth is all about for me. It's becoming a big enough person that can take on more, that has a bigger bandwidth, has more energy, has a bigger battery, is able to do it all. So that's kind of what I'm working towards. But in terms of kind of reflection, it's just a process of just sitting down with a pen and piece of paper, listening to your inner voice, and doing the things you know you should do. Something I say often during my consultations is like, people are always they're waiting for me like to come up and give them this magic meal plan, and I'm like, oh, here we go, like, they're buzzing off. When are we going to do the nutrition? When are you going to tell them what to eat? When are you going to tell them what to eat? And my thing is, like, I guarantee you could look at a plate and 99.9% of the time ask yourself the one question: Is this plate of food going to move me closer to my goal or further away from my goal? And people can answer that probably 100% of the time with certainty, because we know pretty much everything we need to know intuitively. So it's like just about taking the time to listen to yourself, and then actually write it down and make it real. That's what I would recommend.
when you were kind of chatting away there, you really touched on something that I feel should be repeated and highlighted, which is this voice in your head and how a negative interpretation of the voice telling you that you are on the wrong path can be interpreted as negative mental health. Like, I think that's a very fucking powerful statement. And I just had a little look up there. Human beings on average, and I'm not sure if this includes sleep or not, but have on average, and again, obviously these are only rough numbers, but around 70,000 thoughts per day, right? So down to the hour, that's over nearly 3,000 thoughts per hour, right? And how much of that is that little voice? How much of that is random? It's like, it literally, because I was thinking about this the other day, it popped in my head when I noticed it, which is that there's so much noise in my head from time to time. It literally just sounds like white noise. And and again, like, one thing that I noticed that when I was in pain from just kind of having poor mobility and exercise was that I actually didn't understand the difference between exercise effort and pain. And so one of the big things that I do now as a movement coach and just kind of as a fitness coach is that I try and interpret what people are feeling based on what I can tell that they're experiencing and try and relay that back to them. And sometimes people find that very, very helpful. And so one of the things with all these kind of thoughts is like, you have to, this is why mindfulness absolutely blew up and is so important for everybody, is because it's so important to sit down and start trying to understand and sieve through the white noise, the real thoughts, the bullshit, the this, the that, the other. It's like, you literally have to sit down and take some time to process these. It's like learning a new language or communicating with somebody who you never really communicate. You kind of have to understand them and understand their perspective in order to kind of get the information properly, because otherwise you're going to sit there and you're going to have absolutely no idea what they're trying to say. And there is plenty of messages there, and maybe there's 70,000 messages a day, if you were to really be mindful. But the thing about it is like, initially you might literally need to stop what you're doing, sit down, go to a dark space, leave everybody alone, and eventually maybe you could just do it on the fly because you understand the language and you're in tune with it. But I feel like tuning in to that voice is key, massively key. And I feel like there's so many people struggling with it to the point where, again, it is poor mental health for an awful lot of people. Not everybody, but that is the case, I would say, in an awful lot of cases. And I know, sorry, Chris, I know because I deal with so many people, and like, I ask people, like, in terms of like self-judgment, it's like, oh, how do you feel about that? And they interpret, like, again, the common question, if your friend came to you, would you give them that advice that you were after giving to yourself? Like, no, geez, no, I wouldn't speak like that to anybody. It's like, well, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah. Why would you speak to yourself like that?
Exactly. One of the things I was going to say there about Joe, the way you're saying, like, it's like, it could be like talking to another person, or it could be like someone that you don't really know, and you need to go away and sit down. There's a cool thing, like, I'm sure you heard the analogy, like, your mind is like a lake or a river or a body of water, and when things are all like crazy, there's waves and all this sort of stuff, and it can't be like, you can't see through the water because it's so choppy. But then if you breathe and you calm your nervous system down and you slow everything down, it becomes still and everything becomes clear. And I think pairing that with some journaling, because one of the things that's really hard to do is, like, ideas are fleeting, like they come and they go, like, just like that, and then you're on to 10 new ideas in like 30 seconds, or 10 new thoughts, and you forget about the 20 previous ones, like, completely. But if you have them written down, then you can actually look at them, you can actually see them and reference back to them. I've tried doing it without journaling, I've tried doing it with journaling, and doing it without journaling is you can't, like, you just can't, unless, I don't know, maybe I'm not smart enough or something like that for it, but like, if, like, I don't have the bandwidth to store all the thoughts in my head and to analyze them and to, like, sieve through them, unless it's written down. When it's written down, you can see it and you can be objective about it, and do it from this relaxed place where you're in a state of gratitude. You're not being super self-deprecating, you're not beating yourself up over it, you're not, like, condemning yourself for your flaws, because, like, everyone's fucking flawed. So I think if you're looking to do that and you're looking to sift through the mental health sort of side of things, meditation, calming your nervous system down, or just deep breathing to help calm everything down, and then to write your thoughts down from that state, it would help a lot.
Something I was noticing when I was doing some meditation recently was one of my ideas when I read it in Inner Engineering by Sadhguru, and he told a story, and it was about a Zen monk, I think is what they were going by, and essentially his whole practice was like, whatever you are and whatever you want to be and are doing and your priorities and all that kind of stuff is like meditation is essentially the practice, or maybe it wasn't meditation, but Zen. Zen is the practice of just putting it all down. So whatever stuff that you have going on, just put it down. Just put it down for 5 minutes, for 2 minutes. And I constantly hear this from busy people. It's like, oh, I haven't got a minute. Or it's like, just if you can, just put it down. Well, everybody should get into the practice of putting it down, for a couple of minutes, even if it's just a minute. But just get into the habit of putting it down. And so I was trying to meditate, and I was thinking about this. I was like, just whatever it is, like things keep popping in your head. I was like, just put it down. It's not important now. Just put it down. And before I know it, I'd have something in my hands, and I'd be looking at it like in terms of like a thought or an idea or like a situation that happens. Like every time I put it down, before, like I'd have it up and be examining it and kind of be halfway, and I'd be in the middle of it and I go, oh fuck, I picked something up again. You know what I mean? And it just kept happening. I'd be like, all right, whatever this is, right, we'll put that back down again and put it down. I'll be breathing my breath, and the next thing I'd realize I'm like, oh, I'm in the middle of thinking about something else. It's like it's just the human condition that we get into these patterns of thought, and coming away from those patterns of thought, because there's so much momentum behind them, is that it's useful to just be good at putting them down again.
Yeah, like I was thinking about something like this recently as well, and it was the kind of analogy that really kind of helped me kind of get a good grasp was like the whole thing, like the monkey mind, or like you're training a dog. Like your mind is like a dog. You're trying to train the dog. Like you have to. There's so many people going around with untrained minds, and that's the problem. The problem is your mind is untrained. You can't focus. You can't focus on anything. And that's with me, because I was struggling for focus. I was like, I wanted to sit down and get a nice big block of work done, especially doing things like creative work. It's not just kind of data entry or whatever. Like you have to think and be creative, etc. And it can be so difficult. But it's like, why? It's like, because I haven't been practicing. I haven't been training my mind. I've let my dog, run after all the squirrels and all these different things. You have to be, oh no, come back over here, sit down, sit. And it's okay. And then if he runs off, let him come back. And then you're just trying to increase the time. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't, like, you don't go from 0 to hero. Like, like you go like, maybe you can do it for 10 seconds, then you can do it for 15 seconds, then 20 seconds, then 30 seconds. It might regress back to 10, and you go like, it's not going to go from, it's not black or white. It's kind of very gray, and it's going to take a little bit of time to do it. But that for me is one of the biggest opportunities for growth I feel like I have personally, is to tame my mind a little bit more. Everything is a duality. Some of my biggest strengths are also my biggest weaknesses. Kind of being, I say, like an action taker, or somebody that's kind of full of ideas and different things. It's like, that's the pro, but the con is that it makes it's hard for me to stay focused. It's hard for me to kind of be organized and a little bit scatterbrained and stuff. So everything has its pros and cons. So it's trying to recognize things for what they are, understanding yourself that a little bit better through this process. And then just trying to do a little bit better than you've done yesterday. So that's the thing I would say, especially on the topic of New Year's resolutions. Just try and do a little bit better than you've done yesterday. Imagine even like, say for example, you signed up for Fighting Fit, 90-day program. Say for example, you only made it 6 weeks in, right? You made it, and then you quit. You come up with some excuse. You knew you probably could have stuck it out, but you made an excuse. You said you were sick, or you said work was busy, or whatever the thing is that it's not true. But you said it and you just getting out. But imagine 6 weeks was the longest you've ever stuck with any program. Is that a loss, or is that a win? Is that like, was it actually a loss? If you've never done any sort of program for 6 weeks, but you managed to do it 6 weeks this time, it was, you signed up for 90 days, you didn't hit the 90 days, you done 6 weeks, but before that, you only really got a 2-week streak. So I'm just saying, so just like, that's growth, so you have to really acknowledge these wins.
Well, here's what it is that it's 6 weeks of growth followed by a bad habit. And it's like, and it's the glass half empty, half full thing. It's like, well, yeah, no, I did it 6 weeks. And if your frame is, oh, I quit again, and you go back to that little rabbit hole of who you are and what you are and why you did it, or you go, right, what it is, I'm after doing this for 6 weeks. Here did I train? Here's right, back at it again. Here we go. You know what I mean? After your little period off, it's like, yeah, I completely. It's like, but it's about how you frame that to yourself. And I think because you said this to us all the time, like I know when we first initially started Fighting Fit, when price came to factor, I remember being very, very nervous because, people were, because again, the common gym membership is much cheaper than what we were. And then again, you kept having to even train us. It was like, your frame is incorrect. It's like, we are not a gym. We're not selling the gym membership. We're selling something else. It's like, what you're thinking about it, when you encase us in this other thing, this frame that you have, it seems negative. It's like, but when you frame it like this, it actually seems way more valuable. And again, like how you frame things is crucial to how you interpret them and then how you act in the world. So it's like your frame is crucial.
Yeah, I said for me, it's like the whole thing. It's like Fighting Fit is not a gym membership. Fighting Fit is budget personal training. Fighting Fit is cheap personal training. That's where you're getting Fighting Fit. Or actually, people think we're expensive when you compare it to a gym membership, but if you compare it to personal training, so the lady this morning paying 350 quid a month when you for I think 2 or 3 PT sessions a week. It's very cheap compared to personal training. So it's like, again, the frame is all that matters, and not just in sales. It is important in sales, but it's so important for life. I said, like how are you framing it? How are you framing yourself? Why are you casting yourself in a negative light? That's kind of the thing that I'm just really aware of. As you kind of mentioned there, this whole thing about all these thoughts going through your mind. It's so unconscious for a lot of people. From people I have conversations with, especially over Christmas, trying to have some deep, meaningful conversations. It's like there's a lot of people that haven't actually thought about a lot of things that I would consider to be very important, or things that have proven to be very important in my life. So it's like a lot of stuff that's happened here is just so unconscious. There's no proactivity. You're not journaling. You're not setting goals. You're not, using gratitude or prayer or positive self-talk or any of these tools that are proven. We all know they're good for us, but we choose not to use them and fall into this default mode of whatever comes up. Go on.
So loads of people, I was talking to a friend there recently, and loads of people are cynical of stuff like affirmations and prayer because it's just words and because it's just thoughts. It's not really going to do anything. Do you know, that would be the mindset. So that they don't believe in it. They don't believe in it, and because they don't believe in it, they don't understand that it's actually creating a little motor pathway in your brain to go down, and you're reinforcing that pathway over and over again by saying, I'm fast, I'm smart, I'm strong, I'm fast, I'm smart, I'm strong. Saying that 1,000 times will grow that pathway in your brain, and if you say it with emotion, it becomes more and more meaningful and more impactful. But people just think, you're just saying something in your head. And I think I think that's part of the reason why they don't value it the same way we do, because we actually understand a little bit of the sports psychology element of it versus these people. Don't have that experience.
We don't understand it. We don't understand it. We have felt it. I've said words that have completely changed my physiological state. I felt completely different by just repeating a mantra again and again and again in my mind. It completely changed my state. And I can feel this.
Here's the thing about it.
Vibrating.
You literally gave me your mantra. It wasn't even my mantra. I didn't have to come up with an original mantra. You just gave me a mantra, and I used it for my fights. And that was when, to me, all that nerve-wracking sensation before a fight, for the first time ever, changed to any kind of confidence, was just because of the mantra.
Because before that it was unconscious, and then the fear kicks in, and then your focus is on all the reasons this is scary and all the reasons that you shouldn't do it. So it's no, I'm taking control of my mind. I'm taking control. I'm going to repeat a mantra. It's like the one that was, I'm strong, I'm fast, I'm smart. I cannot be defeated. I am a champion. I'm strong, I'm fast, I'm smart. I cannot be defeated. I'm a champion. And literally I said that 150 times before I stepped into the ring. And when I stepped into the ring, it was just, again, it's just a completely different spirit for somebody who had 30, 40, 50 fights before this, more probably. And it's and going through that experience nervous and afraid and, with a lack of confidence. The only way I could overcome that was to be aggressive and, trying to be dominating and angry. And it's that was only because that was the only way I knew to kind of overcome before. But this was much more effective. And I was kind of just more a confidence and a calmness about it because I'm strong and fast and smart. I can't be defeated. I have a chance. You convince yourself.
Instead of trying to overwhelm them, you can actually, for one of the first times ever, start thinking. That was the big thing for me. It's now I can actually think. Whereas before, you were just kind of panicked and like you said, it's you just kind of your automatic behavior. What is it, Chris?
Yeah, you're reactive.
Yeah, reactive. That's it.
Yeah. So what I would say is just go on. Exactly, reactive instead of being proactive. And guys, that comes from the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's one of them concepts. That frame, the frame of being, who are you? Are you a proactive person or are you a reactive person? I have embodied, or I try to embody at least, my identity is attached to being a proactive person. Somebody doesn't wait for life to happen for me. I try and go out there and make things happen for myself. Because that whole thing, I feel like the day I became a man was the day I realized that nobody was coming to save me, and I needed to do it for myself, which was very, very, very powerful for me. But that these frames, these concepts, these things will change your life, but you have to believe in them. And it's something I feel like cynicism is a lack of courage. It's like to believe in something is otherwise what is it? What is it? What do you think it is?
I don't disagree with that. I was like, that's a really good way. That's a good take. a cynicism is a lack of courage. Yeah, I think you'd be right, because like if anyone who's cynical, usually what's happened is they've been burned before, they've tried and they have a story that they've failed. So like, what's the point? It's like, I already tried that and it didn't work. Do you get me? So like, you can't. I think like there's a what's the progression? I think first you're naive and hopeful, and then something shuts you down, and then you become cynical and bitter, and then you have to develop the courage to, let's say, do it again, despite the fact that you've been burned. Does that make sense? And that does take courage to face the fear again, to face the possibility of that pain or rejection or failure or whatever it is.
So what about like cynicism? Is essentially it's more like trying to understand like chance, really, isn't it? It's like what probability. It's like going, based on my experience, the probability is kind of what I'm a man of logic now, so I'm basing everything off probability. And the thing about probability is like, yes, fair enough, the chances and the likelihood are, but as Jim Rohn says, like, reach down deep and pull out one of those remarkable human gifts, and so then like having hope and faith in yourself. And so, cynicism is probably more of a lack of faith and lack of courage, but it does take courage to act in faith and in hope, because there is no guarantee. And so people who are cynics probably want to act out of certainty. And it's like, well, in some situations, like especially with boxing, like combat sports, there is no certainty. It's like, it's not a certain thing. It's like, you get in there, like, that's kind of why the McGregor and Mayweather fight was so thing. Is like, I'm pretty sure Mayweather's going to win, but I don't know, And so it's like, it's like we don't know what's going to happen, and there is always that kind of element where you just kind of have to have hope and faith and belief in yourself. And this is kind of where the new year, new me thing, to what you said, like really taking the bull by the horns and going, I'm stepping into it and all this kind of stuff. Is like, you have to have hope in yourself. And there's some people that have let themselves down so many times that they feel like the probability of it happening again, they're cynical. They don't have hope or faith in themselves, and therefore, they're scared. Well, that's exactly. But no, but it's because they're scared. Because they don't.
Courage, saying they don't have courage is harsh. It feels like it's really harsh, doesn't it? It's like, mean. You're the reason you're cynical. The reason is because of a lack of courage.
But I don't know. But I don't feel like fair enough. Like, if you would, it's foolish to just do something if you feel like there's no chance. So before the action of and having the courage to do it, you have to have the belief that it's possible there, even if it's only small. It's like, it's brave to act on a small chance, as long as you feel like it's not foolish. But like, if you feel like, I'm going to bet on myself, that's brave. But in order to bet on yourself, you have to feel like there's some positive outcome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, otherwise it's hopeless.
Exactly. There's some people that are so beat down by life and by their own actions that they really just don't. It's like, there is no hope. It's not about being brave. It's about the fact that, well, it's not going to happen. And sometimes that's why, people need inspiration or desperation. It's like, well, you need, like, here you're burning your arse, fucking move, or, oh fuck, maybe there is a glimmer of hope for me. If they can do it, maybe I can do it. It's like, you have to have that kind of spark of belief that it can happen.
Desperation.
And that's one of the reasons why. That's one of the reasons why I really feel like, in terms of
that's
like
a Tony Robbins quote.
In terms of religion and faith and stuff like that, is like that it really is so important to just kind of have faith. And that's something that I was big into the kind of church when I was a teenager and that kind of stuff. And I used to really feel like what it gave me more than anything else was that it just, like, I have an ideal in my head now of just like, and it's not conscious, it's unconscious. Like, I just believe that there is a better sense of good. I just always believe that, if I make the right sacrifice and act the right way, the right thing will come out. And maybe that's right, maybe it's wrong, but that's what I believe. That's how I act, and it works majority of the time.
Yeah, no, I believe. Go on.
Well, I was going to say, like, just imagine you have two different people. One is acting out of cynicism and hopelessness, and the other one is acting out of faith and the hope or the dream that it could be bad. Things can be better. With your conscious action, your will to your own interpretation of what's better. Like, who do you think is going to be happier? Who do you think is going to be more productive? Who do you think is going to be more fulfilled? Who's going to have more meaning in their lives? Like, that's one of the reasons why, like, I think faith
apply
is
that,
so
and then apply logic to that same situation. So it's like the person acting from that, like, again, if you're to still take like a purely mathematical, the person operating from that different frame, not cynicism, say, so from a more positive frame, like logically they're probably going to be much more successful. Like for me, and guys, obviously anyone listening, take everything that we're saying with a pinch of salt. We have not got it all figured out. I'm still working through a lot of things, trying to be the best version of myself. These are things that have just worked for me. These are ideas that resonate with me. For me, mindset is just a collection of beliefs and ideas and things that empower me to be better. You know, I will never, I will resist to the nth degree adopting any sort of belief that makes me inferior. You know, so I'm always going to adopt beliefs that make me feel that I feel like empower me to be better. So it's like avoid self-criticism, avoid self-doubt, avoid adopting these beliefs that make you less than.
Yeah, something like I know me and you, Stephen, probably you as well, Chris. I know like when people talk to me, especially here at work, the majority of things that I say are quotes. And so it's like the reason that these just stick with me is because like these are all things that at one stage have given me a positive charge. It's like anytime I hear something that gives me a negative charge, like I just naturally just kind of recoil a little bit and I just don't take it in. I do not take in negative charge. And again, that's not conscious. I literally just positive charge, positive statements, positive mantras, whatever it is, like just give me the positivity, because maybe it's because I feel like I'm a little bit neurotic naturally. Like I feel like I've got a tendency to kind of lean into, like if I get into a negative space, like I can find it very easy just to sit there. And so my protocol is just like, give me the positive juice, positive juice, positive juice, positive juice, like just to where it's like it's very, very hard to slip into a negative space.
Yeah. Chris, you want to add anything to that?
Well, I was just writing down there. I think that thing on mindset, the definition of mindset is very, very important. And I think a lot of people might be unaware of what a mindset is. And like it's a tool that you can use. And the tool is like, okay, I'm going to adopt these beliefs and these thinking patterns. And then like you have them laid out, not just like, oh, I'm going to be better. Like one of the cool things about affirmations is that it like does orientate you towards a certain mindset, but it's not like 100% conscious as to the results that you're trying to get from it. But with an actual like definitive mindset that you have defined can be very, 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 very beneficial. So like some of the things like, Joe, your affirmation, I'm fast, I'm smart, I'm strong, I'm a champion, like I'm unbeatable. Like that is an affirmation, Joe, and that mindset, it's like, how could you not lose? Or how could you not win? Like, Joe, you are fast, you're strong, you're skilled, you're talented, you're a champion. Like, if you have those and you decide consciously to believe them, regardless of the fact, like, you have to have faith. So that thing that like, it's possible this is true. If you don't, then you're cynical, and then you're not really going to take it. But if you have that and you actually believe that, that person is going to perform completely different than the person who's like, oh fuck, I might lose. It's going to be rough, blah blah blah.
But sorry, one thing
the definition of mindset is important.
You guys said, I think earlier on with this kind of stuff is like you have to believe it. It's like, and I would argue against that. I would say you don't even have to believe it at all. I would say try it. I would say just try it and run it, and you'll feel it. And when you feel it, then you'll begin to believe it. And that's the thing about it is like I remember you saying to me, and I thought it was a little bit stupid to be honest, but I was like, right, I mean like anything but the nerves. And so, you know, I did it, and I did it, and I did it. And it took me about 3 or 4 or 5 times. I think you gave me one other experience like this where you said like, tell yourself you love yourself in the mirror. And be genuine about it, and it's like, and you know, cut the frame, you know, and it literally is one of the the hardest thing in the world. But once you do it and you get to the point where you can say it genuinely, like it is actually a very eye-opening experience to think that something so silly, just words, can have such a dramatic estate or such a dramatic effect on your state.
Yeah, actually, that's it. Anyone who's listening to this, their homework is to go tell themselves they love themselves in the mirror sincerely. And see what happens.
And just see what happens. Exactly. But it's a very eye-opening experience. Like, you know, it's very hard to do. I could walk in there and try and do it now, and I wouldn't be able to do it the first time properly without kind of getting all weird and cringy. But I kind of have to take some time to actually do it properly. But I say, guys, my whole point is just we got to wrap this up. Is like, you know, it will be whatever you say. And that is the power of your thoughts. That is the power of your words. It will be you. Like, it is what you say it is. That's your reality. If you feel like a loser, you're going to continue to be a loser until you decide you're a winner. You won't be a winner. Okay, that's going to be my advice to you. And anybody who wants to make a social bind, any of our clients especially, but any friends or listeners in general, again, if you're taking an hour out of your day to sit and listen to us chatting the podcast, we have a lot of respect and appreciation for you. So, you know, feel free to send us a message if you feel like you need some help. So if you want to create a social bind with us, let us know what your New Year's resolutions are. Let us know what your goals are. We can give you some feedback and give you some help. As I said, we've helped hundreds of people. I'm not going to say thousands just yet. Hundreds of people achieve their goals in the last couple of years. I probably
Definitely
have. But I don't have the numbers. But again, hundreds, probably thousands of people achieve their goals over the last 5, 6, 7 years. We've been doing this stuff now. We have a lot of experience ourselves, and we genuinely want to help people. That's our mission in life, to help other people be the best version of themselves too. So we can help. Do it if you want to work with us in 2023. So this is a self-sponsored podcast, so shameless plug. Go check out www.findinformation.com. Schedule a call, have a chat with me, see if we can get you in a program. Let's see if we can work together. Let's help make 2023 the best possible year that it can be for you, for us, for everybody. Let's all move forward. Peace and love in 2023. Chris and Brian, I love you guys so much. I appreciate everything he's done for me and for the business in 2022. I'm genuinely super excited for 2023. Today, I feel on top of the world today. I feel like when you get your routine down, when you have a vision, when you have something to work towards, it just gives you a different level of energy. You can live life in a different frame, a different mindset, and it's very, very powerful.
Yeah, love you too, man. Thanks for everything. I really, really appreciate it. And this is a fucking hell of a gig. Loving it.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, guys. Thanks a million.
We love you.
Right, guys, thanks for everybody listening. We'll see you in the next one. Make sure to like, share with your friends, all that good stuff, and we'll see you next week.
Happy New Year!